Hi, Jayanto, Yazad, Manoj and Rajat. The topic we have been entrusted to discuss about the next-gen ERP, cloud versus on-premise. And we have such an august audience, and we have all our fellow CIOs and head ITs. Just to set the context, may I just start with a story, may not be confirmed. I heard it somewhere. 9/11, when it occurred, there were around 130, 134 odd companies who got affected. This is a Gartner report, unconfirmed, somewhere I read it. Out of this 134 odd companies, around 100 companies came back to normalcy once the 9/11 was over and the related things got taken care, etc. Around 34 companies, they could never come back to normalcy. They stopped forever. So what was the difference between these 100 companies and those rest 34 companies? All of them had their top level, the senior executives, maybe even CEOs and the chairmen and the top level directors got impacted. Maybe they were no more, or they were not in a position to work, or they just vanished. Human loss was definitely very sad, but they could somehow recruit them and then bring the business to normalcy, those 100 companies. These 34 companies, although they had a similar loss, they had one additional impact. They had their primary ERP servers in WTC1 and the secondary or failover server in WTC2. Probably never we could imagine that these two towers will collapse together. The company ceased to exist. The entire data, the government, legal, financials, customers, vendors, employees, everything ceased to exist. And the company stopped. That's the impact of ERP and the data. When you talk about the cost, it's actually priceless. When you are talking about ERP, now the context is not a normal ERP or a traditional ERP. We are talking about next-gen ERP, which is going to be all invasive, all connected, surrounded by all connected systems and environments. We are talking about connected banks, connected government invoice reference numbers, connected maybe the AI and MLs, the data lakes, the IoTs, the customer portals, the vendor portals, many things. So that's definitely going to be the next gen ERP. In Kolkata itself, there are instances where we know there are prominent buildings where the server room or the so-called ERP servers, they got completely demolished because of fire, maybe a simple fire caused by the AC. We don't know the impact. Sometimes the impacts are not shared in the public domain. With this context set, with the eminent speakers here, all of us, we would request all the team members one by one, briefly to first talk about our current ERP landscape and the broad way forward in line with the business strategy of your organization, where you are and what you wish to do very quickly, before we come to the next round of questions with the outcome of that. With that, may I just request in no specific order, but maybe Jayanto first. Would you like to take it up? Over to Jayanto. Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Dipan, and thank you for having me here in the session. Yes, so in Firstsource, as you all know, Firstsource, we are into BPO and IT and digital space, and we serve multiple clients across the globe in US, UK, Philippines, as well as in India. And majority of our client base is based out of US. Almost, I would say 60% of our clients are in US. So that gives us a different kind of a challenge, which is data localization challenge. So our ERP setup that we have is, again, it has to comply with multiple compliances, GDPR, high trust, PCI DSS, and various other stuff based on whichever geography that we're in. So currently we have SAP SAP ECC environment, which is primarily hosted on-premise in India and partially in North America as well as in UK. And we are planning to migrate to a cloud-based SaaS model of ERP solution. And there are multiple approaches that we are talking about. So that is one aspect of it from the finance side of things. From an HR side of things also, we are currently having our HR solutions with respect to recruiting, performance management, and payroll, and various other things, which are based on our internal local applications which we have developed in-house. But going forward, we also want to migrate that to SuccessFactors. So these are two different streams that we have, or rather exploring in Firstsource. One is to migrate ECC to cloud model. And in that cloud model, there are multiple options that we are exploring. One is, can we move the entire ECC to our private cloud, which is either AWS or Azure, or can we move to a HANA cloud, which is a hyperscale HANA cloud provided by SAP for in-memory applications. And the third, but not the least, is about the RISE solution that they have come out with, wherein the entire ECC 6.0 can be migrated to RISE over a period of time, and which will be purely on a pay-per-use basis across the board, multiple geographies. We will have one common instance for corporate, but multiple instances in multiple geographies, and running on SAP RISE solution. So these are various options that we have. And on the SuccessFactors side also, we are exploring multiple options. Our aim is that over next 6 months to a year, both these instances, which is RISE or S4 HANA, should be integrated with SuccessFactors, so that both of these can be integrated seamlessly with API level integrations between the two. So that's our roadmap.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jayanta. It was really, really very eye-opening. May I request Yazad here to take over and share?
Sure. Thank you, Dipan. In Saregama, we are on SAP ECC, and the servers are on premise with disaster recovery at a data center that is geographically separate, but in Calcutta itself. For us also, we have been with SAP for quite some time, and this implementation has been from the days when we used to manufacture CDs and cassettes and LPs, where we had stores. And since the past 7-8 years, we had moved to digital, but with Carva again, we have again gone back to the retail sales where we have to track our stock and things like that. But the 15-year-old implementation and now the business scenario is very, very different. So as of now, our intention, or we don't have an immediate plan to take the setup as it is from an on-prem to the cloud. As Dipan, you perfectly been explained, there is a need rather than from an IT requirement that we have to do a thing like this. But once we will decide at that stage when we are upgrading our ECC to HANA, wherein, as I said, it was a 15-year-old implementation, so we'll go in with a greenfield implementation, so the entire thing we can get it in place. So on cloud is something that we would be seriously interested in.
Great, wonderful, Yazad. Manoj, would you like to take over?
Thanks, Dipan. Good afternoon, everyone. As far as I represent the FMCG business team, FMCG IT team. As far as the FMCG business is concerned, we are already on the SAP S4 HANA hosted in the AWS cloud. When the group decided to venture into the FMCG business back in 2016-17, that time itself, we decided that we will go with the latest available ERP technology. So it was a greenfield implementation for us, and we gone live with the SAP S4HANA in November 2017. We were one of the earliest adopters of SAP S4HANA. As you're aware that every SAP releases the new version of S4HANA every year. So when we went live in 2017, we went live with the 1610 version of SAP S4HANA. Back in last year, when during the first phase of the COVID pandemic, when the entire country was in lockdown and business were almost a standstill, we thought this is an opportunity for us to upgrade our systems. So we taken up the upgrade project of SAP S4HANA to the latest version, and we went live with the S4HANA 1909 version last June. And apart from this, the SAP ERP, we have other systems like our distributed management systems and the Salesforce automation systems. These are based on the Microsoft technologies and custom made by a third-party vendor for us. And both these systems are tightly integrated, and also we have integrated our ERP system with third-party other bank systems and other systems for various process automation tools. And we are using this process automation for the customer payment collection automation, the vendor payment automation, the bank reconciliation, as well as the sales order creation based on some logic from the data from the secondary sales system. And we are using the SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation tool for this various automation processes. And we were the first in the country in the CPG segment to use the SAP IRPA for the process automation. So this is about the flagship company Guiltfree Industries, and we have another company based out of Rajkot, which is the Apricot Food Private Limited. As we speak, at this point of time, we are in the process of rolling out the SAP S4HANA for Apricot Foods, and we are in the middle of the project, which target go live date of 1st Jan 2022. With the SAP rollout, the digital transformation journey for Apricot Food also starts, and once the core ERP stabilizes, we have planned for rolling out the other systems also in the Apricot Foods. We have one more company based out of Mumbai, which is Dr. Vaidya's, which is basically predominantly on an e-commerce platform, and they use the Shopify for their e-commerce business. This is about the application landscape as well as the FMCG business is concerned. Over to you, Dipan.
Thank you, Manoj. And over to Rajat from Spencer's.
Hi, Dipan.
You can just tell the as-is landscape, and then we will have the next round of questions or discussions.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. So our current landscape, as in the retail, our current landscape is we have an SAP ECC 6 EHP 7. We also BW tightly integrated with this ECC, and we have a POS also for this and to integrate it with SAP and the online system. These are the different system tightly integrated with SAP through IDOC, and BW is integrated with ECC. And most of the reports and analytics are coming from the BW, and other reports are coming also from the ECC. So that is our current landscape, and it is since inception of this SAP from 2007. Now, at the time of pandemic, what we have faced and all these things, currently the business dynamics have changed, pattern of buying has been changed, and everything has been changed. So now what we are facing, everything they require the real time. So more online business, stress on the online business, the real time stocks and required, and also required the changes the supply chain pattern also based on that. So that is the major challenges now we are facing for this current legacy ERP, what we call it. So this is the time has come to go for an intelligent ERP, maybe on-prem or cloud, that is debatable. But the time has come to switch to an intelligent ERP. So that is our current landscape.
Thank you, Rajat. For the August audience here, with so many business leaders, if you can just summarize and set the context for the way forward, and then we come back with the next round of discussion quickly. Where do we see the ERP going? Traditional ERPs were the typical data punching environment where you have a next level after the data logbook or a log register for stores and billing and etc. And then one step higher than tally kind of stuff, where you can do anything, and then you came with the SAP kind of organized ERP or Oracle-based ERP. That lived pretty long time, maybe 15 years or 20 years. What we are seeing now is an all integrated environment. Gone are those days where the ERP can remain cocooned inside the server room, so to say, which used to be the usually the MD's backside area, typically in a small or medium-sized manufacturing organization, thinking it's the safest place on earth, or that kind of environment. Till the disaster struck. The disaster could have been because of admin, lack of interest in maintaining the utilities, powers, DGs, UPS, maybe the simple water lines, or the building plant downtime, or electrical overhauling, which jeopardized the ERPs. Nobody could imagine that this is the server which is running 24/7, giving the business the transactions. That happened. So people moved from that on-prem typical data center or server room, adopted the next level, probably hosted their server somewhere outside in a hosted data center of third party, maybe tier 3 data center, tier 2 data center, etc. What was the limitations? We found limitation in terms of managing those servers. How do you access the data centers? Physical access, logical access, expanding the racks. You come up with a situation that you need to integrate these banks or integrate the government IRNs. You have a huge challenge because of the data centers environment, which is not easily maneuverable. You have bought a physical firewall or a physical switch, which is not to be modifiable. We go back to CFO asking for a replacement. We get a response from finance team, no, it has not reached a WDV yet. What do you do? How do you scale up? It requires scale up. Because of the physical assets, you are stuck till the asset reaches its logical end of life. You are not able to invest. Even if you invest, now you have got the investment. How do you put the new box? You are with another challenge. The rack you have invested in the data center, you are putting another box there. The rack does not have space. You hire another rack. You are stuck with the power, because at some point of time, both the servers need to work together during the migration. You invest in more power. So all those complications actually bring our productive time down. We are bogged down to infrastructure management and infrastructure resource and infrastructure utility management. From there, we saw the cloud. First came the public cloud, private cloud, and then we saw the public cloud. Now, even now also we see there are some reservations in adopting the cloud among certain sectors. We know that, like the banking sectors and certain other sectors. There may be reasons for that. But effectively, we have to understand that these cloud service providers, their core business is that. We are not preaching for anything, but these service providers' core existence depends upon the security and availability of their computing environments. Are we in the business of building up the data center? Absolutely not. Probably Firstsource in some manner, maybe into that realm of business, but none of the other businesses, be it PCBL or all the other companies, we are not having competence or core competence to build up a data center, manage a data center, and to have a database administrator, and to have a network administrator, and also managing the spare parts of those data centers and utilities and all those things. It's a whole different ball game, we all understand. And anything in that chain is down, the entire thing collapses. With this context, in PCBL, I'm tempted to share, we adopted the cloud, the AWS cloud, migrated from our old ERPs on site in our Duncan House, Kolkata. We went to Amazon Web Services, India zone. We went with the DR within half a day. That was the beauty of the cross-country dark fiber-based integration between two zones of the cloud. The DR was synced within maybe 4 hours or 5 hours after the go live happened of the SAP HANA on the primary data center of India. Since then, we have actually added up servers as per the requirement of the business. Maybe because of integration of success factor, which is already done, tightly coupled. The government IRN portals, which sends us the live invoice numbers when the whole night the invoices are churned out across the business. Many such integrations exist today, and there are way forwards for the next generation of smart factories. We envisage IoT-driven, data lake-driven data which will be pouring in. We heard CSC talking about smart meters. Daily, there will be 96 data points. We heard from the previous panel discussion. We heard Yazad telling 8 billion data points in a month. So this is another volume of data. Coming back to the core question of the ERP, if we see ERP as a single moment of truth, how do you manage this data in a physical landscape, be it a hosted data center or on-premise data center? And this data is business, right? We talk about backup. Even if you take a backup every half an hour or 1 hour, there is a chance that if the server collapses, you will be losing data for that 1 hour, which may be phenomenal with this kind of a data volume. Can business afford that? How do you skip the data? Would you take the data typically in a tape drive, which is the traditional way, with a huge tape library and daily maybe 20 tapes generated? How do you preserve the tape? It's like the cassettes, video cassettes. How do you ensure that the tapes are readable when in need? Maybe tapes are stuck. How do you keep a backup of that tape? All those are very painful challenges which IT team actually gets bogged down with. And then sending someone physically in the pandemic time to even unload the tapes and reload the tape library. That's a very painful task. Okay, otherwise the backup doesn't happen. What is the cost of that data backup management? Vis-a-vis, what do you get in a cloud? I think these are the points of thoughts which would drive our decisions and the business leaders towards adopting, whether we decide about on-prem servers or we decide for a cloud server, a cloud storage, or a cloud ecosystem. Without wasting time, I would just ask here to Manoj. Manoj, we heard we have already embraced cloud for your ERP. Would you quickly like to share, and we have a little time constant, maybe in 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, your key thoughts on the cloud versus on-prem? How do you get advantage about the DR scalability and other business benefits? Over to Manoj.
Thanks, Stephen. As I mentioned earlier, we have from the day one of our business, we were on cloud. Like we hosted our SAP ERP systems on AWS cloud for the last 5 years now. And the experience with cloud is, I would vouch for it. Cloud will always be better compared to the on-prem. As far as I'm concerned, there are the three key factors which is favoring the cloud will be the availability, the reliability part of it, the cost of, the ease of deployment of the servers, and you can say that even the cost factors. See, when we are going live with our ERP systems back in 2017, we are in a greenfield organization. We were not in a position to envisage what will be the requirement maybe in 5 years' time. So we were in a dilemma how to provision a server, considering we are a greenfield organization and the group has enormous ambitions of growing organically as well as inorganically. So in that type of a scenario, if I provision something, maybe considering the next 5 years requirement, we were not sure what will be the requirement. So it was, then we thought about the cloud part of it. It was easy for just deployment as well as easy for upgrading or scalability part of it. Similarly, if I talk about the deployment part of it, anywhere if he's wanting to install a new server, right from the day of issuing a purchase order and getting the same installed in our data center, it will take anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks of time. Wherein with the cloud, I can easily deploy a new server within 2 hours of time, which are practically done, and we are continuing to do this that way. There is a perception that always the cost will be much higher when the cloud comes into picture. But there are various ways by which we have optimized our cost part of it. The production, we have three different environment, like our production environment, we have our development environment, and we have our QA quality servers. So for the production environment servers, which is on 24/7, we have taken the RI, the reserved instances of the servers, which will reduce the cost. And for the other instances, which is a dev or QA environment, we are using it as a pay as per usage model. If we take our example for the dev servers where the technical team works, we start the servers at 9 a.m. in the morning and shut down at 9 o'clock. So whereas in the quality server, which we just used for testing purpose, we are just starting it for 4 hours a day. I mean, like morning 2 hours and the evening 2 hours. It's just for testing purpose that servers are used. So this starting and stopping of servers, all this is all our automated processes. There is no manual interventions are there. Similarly, you have touched upon the DR part of it. So if we wanted to put up a DR, be it on a typical scenario, we will be spending around 50% of the total TCO for the primary data center on the DR part of it. But what we have done is we could get it thus done with a 12% of the cost, 12 to 15% of the original cost of the primary data center. We could get the DR running up and running. What we have done is that we have installed the application servers in the DR side, but then we have shut down it and keep it in a shutdown stage. We have a DB server, which is on a very low end server, and the data replication happens over the regions, one region to another. And wherever we require to activate the DR, we can just start up the application servers, and then the DB server can be scaled up to the equivalent to the production server within no time, within 2-3 hours of time. So with this way, we could optimize the cost of ownership for the total cost of ownership, whether considering the primary data center, the DR data center, all of these things and all. And the other aspect which I would like to mention is about the manageability part of it. If we are having an on-prem data center, we need to have a large enough team to manage that. We need to monitor it continuously, and we should have at least a 3-4 member team to manage those things and all. But in the cloud environment, it's a click of mouse, everything we can see, and we will get alerts and all. If something need to be acted upon, we have alerts and all. So the manageability parts is very easy in terms of a cloud environment. So these are the main takeaway for me. The cloud will be always better as far as the experience part we have got in the last 5 years time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Manoj. It was really insightful. Jayanta, you talked about multi-cloud and multi-country. Would you like to share your thoughts about the way multi-cloud is going to be reality in ERP, and the kind of some of the hesitations you might have come across in certain sectors in adopting a public cloud and data localization laws in certain countries, if you are aware about? That will be really insightful. Over to you, Jayanta. Maybe you are on mute.
Yeah. So we are a multi-cloud organization, and not primarily for the ERP per se as a use case, but we have multiple applications which are, our client applications or products application or in-house applications. So we use AWS, we use Azure, we use Google Cloud. We have started using, Google Cloud, Google Analytics for our marketing and communication. So overall, we are multi-cloud organization, and we are looking for a uniform cloud management tool which can help us to manage all the flavors of cloud, be it AWS, be it Azure, be it Google, because each of these providers have their own client cloud management tool. The reason being that we want to get all cloud deliverables into one single pane of glass, and we can move workload from one cloud to the other cloud. And starting from provisioning of cloud to deployment of cloud to managing the cloud utilization, and also chargeability, because as you know that we have multiple businesses, multiple clients. So each of the cloud instances will have to actually charge back to a particular client based on usage. So those are the things that we are working on. And to your point about data localization, yes, we have clients from the healthcare side, we have clients from banking, finance side, insurance side. So each of these clients have their own compliance requirements. So for example, for healthcare client, based on the HIPAA and high trust compliances, we cannot move any data from North America to India, or for that matter, for GDPR compliance from UK to India. So all data has to remain within the same geography. So in that case, sometimes cloud may be a bottleneck because there will be huge latency for someone to access a US cloud from India, or for that matter, an UK cloud from India. So how do we take care of those nuances? And thereby, just for cloud deployment, we cannot give away our offshoring advantage. So those are the challenges that we have. But it will be good to have a multi-cloud management system, and we'll have to also look at the data localization. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanta. It was really great to hear about that. Rajat, you are in retail.
Yeah.
So the data volume is humongous. What are your visible challenges in ERP, in the data management front of the ERP especially, and what are your thoughts on possible way forward strategy to mitigate business risks in terms of the data loss or non-availability?
So
over to you, Rajat. And we have a little time constraint, so we have to be a little careful.
I'm very quickly,
maybe 2 minutes or so. Yeah, thanks.
I will finish then very quickly. So humongous data in retail, that is the challenges we are facing every day. So churn out the meaningful information from those data is a little bit challenge for us. So, to move into the cloud, what happened when SAP first implemented, like Manoj, they have implemented recently in SAP like 2-3 years. Now, gradually, when they mature, a lot of requirements will come. So a lot of developments will start. Our case, as we are matured, the 15 years in one ERP, our customization is huge. And we have to develop everything because of the business dynamics, our development constantly, we do a lot of development, lot of changes, lot of business process changes. And so to move to a cloud and to maintain that, say, development server and quality server and this data, and to maintain, always you need to have a check. Otherwise, a lot of cloud resources you're going to use, it will hit the end of the month, which is very huge. As our database server is huge, as in 7 TB. So that is a debatable question right now, whether we'll go for a cloud or make it in on-prem, make it intelligent cloud, intelligent ERP, and make the in-memory computation to make the other things available to the customer face, real-time data and real-time information to the customer. So the business will grow and sustain, and they're resilient. So that is the thing I feel the current scenario of our business.
Great, Rajat. Thank you so much for the way forward vision. Yazad, you are in retail, this music industry, and you already told about the data volumes. And it's a different class of business. But would you like to tell how would you like to move ahead with that challenges, cloud or on-prem? What's the thought ahead?
Sure. So from as I said, we are on ECC. When we upgrade, we would be definitely interested in the entire thing about the cloud from a safety, security, business continuity perspective that you have already mentioned. So here, when we go for an implementation like that, obviously our data will migrate as well. So that is the only time we are looking at taking an opportunity to clean up the data or to make it clean enough for the entire migration to HANA as well. Here, then we will end up with a couple of options. Either we go for software as a service that Jayanta briefly touched upon as HANA Cloud, or we go as a platform as a service, which would be to take up instances like what Manoj has mentioned. So to go with a software service or a SaaS model, actually life is slightly easier. Life is easier in a way that all your updates or all your compliance requirements, even at that time, if it was related to GST and things like that, it would have automatically flown in. and not like us, which we have to take each of those notes, apply them, and see how they work, if there's any regression, things like that. So there are a set of advantages for that. At the same time, what we see it as a slightly difficult thing from a Saregama's perspective. We are very tightly integrated with other systems as well. Our sales tracking application, our other services that we have from a vendor portal, customer portal, things like that. So any change, the change management, if it is not tightly managed, that can become a problem for us. We don't want something to flow in without it being agreed upon by the business team as well. I guess around last year there were some compliance requirements for the GST, which and operationally it was becoming a problem for us. So we are just, the government was extending it, and we were more than happy in not implementing it. So from a business case perspective, from an operational perspective, our platform as a service would make sense for us.
Great. Thank you, Yazad. It was really very balanced discussion of your thoughts between PaaS and SaaS. Wrapping up the whole thing, we have a little time constraint. I think we have 5 minutes left. We heard wonderful points from Jayanta about the multi-cloud and the requirement for a cloud management platform for a multi-cloud environment. We heard Manoj reaping the benefits of Amazon DR. And so as PCBL, I'm tempted to share. The DR is exactly 10% or 15% of the cost. We exactly do the same thing. We do not run the DR in full-blown size. That's the major benefit of cloud. The DR syncs almost in a real time or near real time. It's in Singapore. And the data localization law says the primary copy of the data need to be in India. So that way we are compliant. We check the data localization norms. The DR copy or the backup copy can remain in another location. So as of now, that's the data localization law as of so far India is concerned. We are also benefited in terms of the pandemic. There was no dependency on the company network. PCBL, as the plants run, we got permission to run the plants across even during the full-blown pandemic 2022 April-May period. We did not have practically any challenge. We did not have any dependency on the head office, dependency on the network setup or the servers on site. That was a major advantage. PCBL reaped the benefit. All the audits and everything happened virtually with the security of VPN and other stuff. We had the DR drills also conducted, and in between came the IRN integration and many such other projects which we could safely deliver. We had SAP DMS implemented, all in the cloud. We could spin up the DMS server, integrate it, manage it, and implement it. So all without any capex, without any need of physical delivery of the server on site, physical racking, stacking, power, UPS, nothing. That was the power of cloud we could leverage. That was the power of the virtual environment, which actually gave us the advantage. Then came the connecting systems, the bank integration and other things which we are working on. Again, we are not constrained by the physical setups, as we told. We heard Robin Hill of AWS talking about machine learning driven demand forecasting and deep level data science, confidence and trust building based on the recommendations. We heard live stream commerce. How would we reap these benefits or the offerings if we are on-prem? We have to question ourselves. The business strategies and the leaders, we need to think ourselves. Are we looking at only the cost of a server? Let's say a 5 lakhs rupees vis-a-vis the cost we pay to the cloud, or is it a journey ahead? Are we strangulating or throttling our journey or digital strategy by putting something on-prem? Are we considering all the other aspects? the aspects of not doing, not integrating, and leave aside the AI and ML and many other analytics. Practically, a AI engine cannot be run very effectively on an on-prem setup. You need a humongous setup, serverless architecture and many such things. Think about the situation of auto scaling, like Flipkart does at big billion day sale. At night time, 2 o'clock, they release some product, and by 4 o'clock, the product is exhausted. Some 10 million numbers have been sold, maybe that phone. The server gets auto scaled to maybe 100 times to cater to the same level of customer experience of booking the order and making the payment and confirming the order. And the customer is a butterfly. Moment they see a slow thing, they will immediately switch over from Flipkart to Amazon to click to whatever. Whoever gives them a best experience. Nobody wants to lose money. Your money is deducted, your order fulfillment has not happened. How do you do that with an on-prem server? Today, you calculate the server based on your current load. The load can be added with 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Is that enough? How would you put a data lake where all this data which we heard Robin Hill and others talking about, the market data, the digital marketing data, the customer practices and customer experiences, which will be a huge data. You need to put them in a data lake. How would you put that in an on-prem setup, even if it is a hosted data center? How do you integrate them with the AI engine or an ML engine to your ERP to have a single moment of truth or a dashboard and a data-driven wisdom? Probably these are the food for thought. We got a question from Bhandari sir. We are on premise on ERP. Any business here still not on cloud, even if amongst the participants? So probably we heard that couple of our existing companies, the core ERP is still on-prem, and maybe there are cloud adoption here and there. Our email, the Gmail itself is on cloud. That's practically the cloud adoption across. I think Jayanta is on Office 365 probably. Firstsource is on Office 365. That's also on cloud. But ERP-wise, I think we have a varied environment.
Dipan, I have a question for both you and Manoj. One of you can answer.
Yes.
A very extremely good stories that you have put across, and balancing obviously Yazad with in the current situation that he runs on premise, and there are compulsions for other businesses also to do it based on criticality of the sector as defined by the government. Now, both of you spoke of very cost-effective DR and saying that around 10 to 15% of resources were used for keeping the DR capacity. My question is, which of these, what are those resources which were at 10 to 15% capacity so that replication was not a challenge and you could upscale the capacity at the time when the DR was required? So if you can just elaborate a little bit, taking either of the examples.
Okay, Manoj, may I take it?
Yeah, Dipan, you go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So it is the objective of the DR which we first set. For PCBL, we set the objective that the business data should be available, if not in real time, maybe in 1 hour RTO kind of a thing. 1 hour, 2 hours is good enough. The data loss should be 0 or near 0. That was the objective set. With that, what we did is the database of the ERP production or SAP HANA production was replicated with HSR. Technically, it is HANA system replication, HSR technology, to the DR environment of a database. Now, SAP says theoretically a HANA server will not run without the database size equal size of a RAM. That puts a humongous server size. That makes the HANA servers costly. We took a challenge. In fact, it was an innovative challenge for us. We approached the AWS partner team. We said, we want a server of 1/4 or 1/5 size. They said, this will not work. We said, let us put the challenge. We will keep the database sleeping. You are not making the database up. What is the harm in this? So we took a very small server only for the database, the HANA database. We put it under replication, a live replication, while that database was kept down. Once the database is down, you are not actually bringing it to the memory. So we did this kind of innovation. The application server, one copy of the mirror image of the application server was just kept there, not live, in their S3 bucket of storage, which is practically some cents cost, maybe weekly some cents we pay. During the DR drill, we cut this umbilical cord between the DC and DR, or primary and DR, at night 12 o'clock kind of a time, of course within the IT team. And then we stop the replication, copy this small database server without affecting it to another on-demand server, which is of bigger size, for one day or half a day. And then we spin the application server, connect them together, do the DR drill, we do some mock transactions, we do some real transactions, reportings, etc., and then we discard that. Of course, we don't give it to the business. Of course, what we don't do here is the connected systems like the government IRN and all those things, we do not connect. So the objective is was not, at least for PCBL business, it was not to have a complete DR setup which can run the business fully in next 1 hour. The objective was to at least have the business data live, where we can build up those connectivities again, if that situation be, or maybe there is a catastrophe, we can at least have the data and bring back the data onto the DC. Hope I could answer, Mr. Prashant.
Dipan, just a question from my side, Debashish Roy here.
Yeah.
What is the RTO and RPO in your case? What was the design when you did the DCDR solution architecture for PCBL?
Yeah.
What is the kind of RTO and RPO you had set for yourself?
I would say the point objective was maybe almost near zero. I mean, we imagine maybe less than a minute, and we effectively saw it is in seconds effectively. So we are pleasantly surprised. So it is like targeted was less than a minute. The recovery time objective was, we were happy with 1 hour kind of a recovery time, and we could safely make that. That's basically precisely copying this into a bigger server and spinning it up on-demand mode in the Singapore data center.
And one question for Rajat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, Rajat, you will recall, when we were implementing SAP for retail nearly 15 years ago.
Correct, sir.
We had encountered a major challenge in seamlessly integrating the various POS machines located all across the country with the central SAP server.
Right.
Then we finally came up with an interim solution, which was. I heard you mention that the same iDocs, you're continuing with it. It was supposed to be an interim solution 15 years ago. So it has stood the test of time, is it, for all these years?
Yeah, same thing. Some little bit modification we have done after this, that migration was EHV 7, and for non-Unicode to Unicode, some challenges we faced. That way, I personally rectified that in the system in SAP. It is working fine.
Great. And Dipan, one last question from my side to you.
Sure.
Is let's say the ex cloud service provider decides to wind up its business. Like many large organizations do wind up businesses, and this cloud service provider X decides to wind up business one fine morning, and you happen to be one of their customers.
Right.
So how would you transition from one cloud service provider to another, and what would be the impact on the business?
Okay, great question, Mr. Roy. Today, probably this is not a challenge anymore. There are standard cloud service providers, at least the top 3, what we know, AWS, Azure, and Google. They are having mutually connectable connectors or integrators, which can actually pull data from one cloud to another cloud if the need be. May not be that kind of a disastrous scenario of a winding up, maybe even a business strategy that somebody is offering a better deal kind of a thing. So there are ways and means to just copy this data, because ultimately end of the day, it's a SAP's data. We can just take a SAP standard database or a backup, and then transfer it into the other cloud using a cloud connector or even a cloud to cloud direct copy through a VPN tunnel. So you set up a even a traditional way of putting up a firewall, this firewall and that firewall, you put a IPsec VPN tunnel, transfer the data. That's very easy, and it's in some Gbps, 100 Gbps pipes they have. So that's one. Once you do that, then probably we can just build up the server there with that database image, which is also a kind of a lesser effort thing. What will take little time is building up that architecture and the IP and the firewalls, connecting the external setup. That will take little effort, maybe little of support partners and little of engagement to build up that or rebuild up that, migrating it from a cutover time from this to that. But otherwise, data-wise, I don't foresee any challenge because it will obviously not happen overnight. They will definitely give a time. 1 month's time is more than adequate in this case.
So, Dipan, I have one supplementary question.
Yeah.
One is, I would request both you and Manoj to make at least a very short sort of a white paper, not more than 2 pages,
Sure.
we just spoke about. And these are interesting stories to understand what's happened on the ground. And so my supplementary question is, did any of you try looking at, the database instance like RDS, which can run any, relational database engine, or which can run even your MySQL? Have you all tried looking at this, explored at least looking at this? This case is with obviously Amazon. Any experience which can be shared?
A database server in Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are having that. We have to take care of the compliance also. That's another great point. As we know, MS SQL has a big database compliance issue. Those cal licenses of MS SQL are really very painful, and Microsoft can sometimes be very dangerous. We strategize to wipe out all 0.0, I mean all SQL's databases instances from our on-premise, and every such, not too many, 1 or 2 hardly we have, those database servers are completely on AWS. So once you take that cal-free license on that RDS instance with built-in database into it, it gives a wonderful cal compliance, and also it's not costly. Once we compare it with the unlimited cal license of on-prem SQL vis-a-vis that, which has auto scaling once again, that definitely looks to be much more cost effective.
And Sanjay, the white paper you mentioned, Dipan is ready with that 2 years ago. So you want it, he can send it tomorrow itself.
Oh, acha, thanks.
We have sent it to many places, but then if you want, we can send it to you.
Yeah.
Also.
And Manoj, you can have yours done also, 1.5 2 pages.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah. Excellent. So this obviously it's a good conversation, and provides a very good roadmap, and probably an affordable roadmap and stable roadmap. So obviously each instance will be a little different, but yes, certainly this is a way to table this at this point.
So any other questions?
And very recently, actually, Dipan should have taken that example also. Sanjay, we just did ramp up our sandbox very recently because we ran out of space. So, and it was done in just 3 hours.
Yes. So I just elaborate what Savi touched upon. I actually missed out. So we had a production increase. Thankfully, in July after COVID, we had a great production increase and sales increase. Invisible to IT, on the last day of the business month, 30th or 31st July, we hit a situation where the multiple concurrent usage actually slowed down the current production HANA server. And that actually caused little delay. Delay was like, if you are taking, let's say, 30-second time to churn out an invoice, it was taking maybe 1 minute or 1.5 minutes, etc. We found, yes, it was actually hitting the database limits because HANA server, everything is in-memory computing, and you optimized it when you spinned it up. And at that moment, it was almost like that Flipkart Big Billion Day sale. It was actually 20 times transactions happening. compared to a normal day. We realized that we have to do something because next month, next day, MD told us that, look, we have to improve the situation. The situation is going to be better. More and more sales will happen. We just did an analysis, forensic analysis, and we found that yes, HANA server has reached its memory capacity. Imagine an on-site server. What would have happened in this scenario? We just talked to AWS with the partner. We understood the next size available, almost a double size, like it's at 512 GB memory. We spinned it up within 3 hours on a Sunday night. And business was extremely happy. The transaction time was cut down to maybe even 15 seconds. The backup taking time became like, if it was taking 4 hours, it became half an hour or 2 hours, 1 hour. That kind of great agility we got on the fly with 3 hours. Now just compare it with the on-prem setup. Throwing away the old server and replacing with a bigger server and then migrating it, and then the speed of execution, the finance part of it, the capex part of it, we all understand. So thanks, Avi.